Kandy. Welcome back to my channel. Today we're gonna do just a really quick, like, get ready with me, chatty get ready with me, because this week has been very trying, I guess I should say. So I'll just start at the beginning. It's currently Sunday, oh my hair, Sunday the 8th. We just sprung forward an hour. So we'll start with last Sunday. Friday-ish of last week, we got some news from a longtime friend of ours. I sort of call her like a second grandma. She's, you know, just a couple years younger than my maternal grandmother, because you guys know my paternal grandmother is 102, and I'll get to see her in May, which is good. But she was her and her husband were very instrumental in like helping with my wedding in 2005, and we've just been, stop clawing me, babe. Just been really close, and her and her husband have been, you know, just a really good support system for me and my family. And she's been fighting cancer for about 8 years, and she told us that she's gonna go into hospice because they can't do anything for her. They can't fight it anymore, and you know, it's the chemo and stuff is just doing worse to her body than anything. And so last Sunday, my mom, my sister, and I went and visited her, and, you know, hung out for like, you okay, sis? Hung out for like 3 hours with her and her husband at their house and visited. It had been, I probably hadn't seen her in almost a year. I did go to the racetrack last summer and saw her for a little bit, but it had been a while. And so we visited with them, and it was a great visit. And at one point I'm sitting on the couch, and her husband like peeks his head out of the bedroom, and he's like, I'm like, okay. He goes, I gotta show you her porn. And I was like, what? Like, what are you talking about? And so he takes me into the room, and he has all her scans so that he can show me like where all the tumors are and why, you know, they can't really take care of it. She's got a very large one on her tailbone that is causing her a lot of pain, and the type of cancer she has, they don't have any treatment for, and so it's just, they can't do anything. And so he was so funny. He's like, I gotta show you her porn. And I was like, I don't know about that. But he was very funny, and it was really nice to spend that time with them. And, you know, here we luckily got her on a really good day. She wasn't in a ton of pain, and she was like very awake and, you know, lovely to talk to. And so it was really nice, and it made me feel good with, you know, having that looming, like, well, she's going into hospice, so it's not awesome, you know. And that was good. And then at work, I was just like, the rest of the week was just not great. And I had called a couple weeks ago to get back into therapy, because I haven't been to therapy since before we left for vacation. So it was like very late October that I went. I went like 3 days before we left for vacation. And apparently the process is I have to talk to my therapist to see if, like, have a phone conversation with him to deem if I should be coming back. And so I had a phone appointment with him at 8 a.m. and I also had to talk to my psychologist, because I hadn't talked to him in almost a year, or it had been over a year, because you're supposed to talk to him once a year. And so I had a phone appointment with my therapist at 8 a.m. and I was just telling him what was going on, and I was like, I just have no will to do anything. Like, I don't want to get up in the morning. It takes everything I have to like go to work, come home, and I just lay in bed. Like, it's awful. I go, I haven't played video games in like 2 months. And he goes, whoa, 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 whoa. You haven't played video games in 2 months? Okay, something's definitely going on. You need to come in. I was like, well, you do know me, don't you? And so I have an appointment with him in 2 weeks. Like, it's the mental health care system, especially with my insurance, is like ridiculous. Like, it takes so long to get an appointment, and it's like a pain in the ass. And I can understand why people that have like severe anxiety just don't go, because I had to talk to 4 different people before I could even get an appointment. And so it was just super frustrating. So then I talked to my psychologist I had a video appointment with him at 4 o'clock. And so I told him, I was like, I've been back on my medication, but I'm having like some pretty bad side effects. I go, I can't cry. I have no, like, I don't feel anything. I don't have like emotions. And I go, I also can't orgasm. And he's like, okay, well, that medicine's not treating you very well this time, is it? And I was like, no, it seems like it was fine when I was taking it before. And then, you know, I weaned myself off of it and I was doing good. And this time it's just not working. So we're going to try a new medication. We're going to switch to Cymbalta. So that's what I'm going to be taking. And so I start that tomorrow on Monday. So hopefully that will, you know, kind of aid in some of those bad side effects that I was having. And then getting back into therapy will hopefully help with the other stuff. So that was Wednesday. And like I said, work was pretty stressful last week. We're still down. The guy that had back surgery is still not back. So we're down a guy. It's like very stressful. My boss is having to work a lot. And then one of our guys got sick last week. So he was gone. So we were like working extra. And then Thursday, my mom called me and she goes, Grandma was in an accident. And I was like, whoa, what? So my grandma she had gotten in a car accident. And apparently she was like reaching for her purse and went off the road. Took out a couple mailboxes, and the lady in the house nearby came out. The car was on 2 wheels. My grandma was not like she was a little bit out of it because, I mean, she just got in an accident. And so she refused to go to the hospital. The EMTs checked her out. She seemed okay. But my aunt was like, no, we're going to take you to the hospital and get you checked out. She had some pretty bad cuts on her hand, and she had a lot of bruising on like her legs and like on her midsection. And so my aunt took her to the hospital, and the accident happened at like 8:30 in the morning, and at like 2:30 a couple of my aunts were up there and they were about ready to release her, and her heart rate dropped to like, I think my aunt said like 40 or something. And so they put her on an IV to kind of get her heart rate back up, and so that they could monitor her. Well, while she was on the IV, she had a seizure. And apparently the seizure, they couldn't get her to stop seizing. So they put her in a medically induced coma. And that's when my mom freaked out. At this point, my mom had just been at work. You know, she hadn't went up there yet. She hadn't went and seen my grandma. And so at that point, my mom freaked out. And so my mom my sister called me, and she's like, I'm taking Mom to the hospital. Grandma had a seizure. They put her in a medically induced coma. Like, this is what's going on. So my sister's work allowed her to take my mom to the hospital, but then they wanted her to come back and where my sister and my mom work is about an hour from the hospital. So my sister drove my mom to the hospital and then had to drive back to work. And during that time I was like, okay, I'm coming up. I don't want like mom to be there by herself. She wouldn't be by herself. She had her sisters and her brother was on his way, but you know, I didn't want her to be up there without one of us. And so I had headed that way. And when I got up there, on my way, my sister was like, okay, my work is allowing me to leave now. So I met my sister at her house and we drove up there. The hospital for me is about an hour and a half away. And then, so my sister and I got up there and they put her in the medically induced coma, and then they were talking to my aunt and they told her that there's no brain activity. And so my aunt took that as my grandma is a vegetable. And we didn't realize until the next morning that what they were telling us was when she's in the medically induced coma, there's no brain activity, so don't expect her to, like, you know, react to you. And we didn't realize that. And so my cousin that lives in California immediately got on a flight and headed here. And all of my aunts and my uncle was there. And we were just like really worried. And so eventually we took my mom home. I drove, no, my sister drove. We took my mom home and then I went and got my car from my sister's house. And we were just like, just very worried. And so Friday, there was no update. So I was like, well, I'm gonna go to work because we're already down a person. And I just, you know, I don't want to put my work in a bad spot. Well, over the night, they started to bring her out of the coma. And she had squeezed my uncle's hand and she had tried to open her eyes. And so I was like, not going to work. I will go up to the hospital and be with everyone else. So on Friday, when she was in the ICU. So when we got to go back to see her, it was my mom, my sister, and I. Because they can only take 3 people at a time. And so we got back there and she was able to sort of open her eyes. And she's able to kind of nod to questions and a little bit responsive, and she held my hand and squeezed my hand, and so that made me feel really good. So that was Friday, and she continued to improve over the day. And I had plans to go to this, let me do eyeliner real quick. I had plans to go to this Chub Hub PDX event with Brittany on Saturday. And my mom's like, you should go. Like, she's good. She's improving a lot. Carrie and I will go up there and see her. And, you know, if something changes, we will let you know. I was like, you know, no, I don't want to leave everyone. And my mom's like, just go. And so I checked in on her. Like, I made some phone calls to my family to check in, and everything seemed good. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna go to this event, but call me or text me if something happens. So yesterday before I left for the event, I was like, oh, I shouldn't go. I'm gonna cancel. I'm not feeling this. I'm like kind of in this, you know, funk. And then my aunt texted me a picture, and my grandma, they got her out of the bed and she was in a chair. Her eyes were wide open. She was able to kind of write them a note. She has a breathing tube down her throat right now. And so she's able to respond, and I was like, okay, she's doing really well. I think I'm gonna go to this event and then I'll go up Sunday morning. So I got to Brittany's house and we got in the car, and the event had 2 separate kind of things. There was a pop-up market that started at 4, and that was free. And then at 7 o'clock, they were having a dance in the same, you know, area. And this was a body positive, LGBTQ positive kind of event. I was like, this should be fun. We should be able to meet some people. And I knew there was going to be some people that I interact with on social media that I'd never got to meet in person. And so we got there at 4 o'clock. We did a little bit of shopping, and I was like, well, I don't want to hang out here for like 2 hours. So we decided to go hang out at a bar close by because I had a couple friends that were coming to just the dance part. And so we went and hung out at this bar called The Basement. It's very dimly lit, which, I mean, you would expect from a basement. But it was also, they had a bunch of like board games and stuff. So Brittany and I sat there and had a drink and played Yahtzee. And the first game she won. Like, Brittany's played Yahtzee like 3 times in her life. And the second time she played with me, she got like 3 Yahtzees in one game. And I was like, ringer. But this time I got 3 Yahtzees in one game. It was so weird. So we went back to the event space, and there wasn't a lot of people there when we first got there. And we were sitting at a table. They had these like tall like bar tables. So we're sitting on stools and talking to each other. We're sitting there and we're like congratulating ourselves for being out of the house for 4 hours, because like Brittany and I's normal is she comes here, we order like sushi, and we watch movies on Saturday nights or on a Sunday, depending on like what we each have going on Saturdays. And that's our normal weekend hangout. And so we were like doing that, and this lady comes up, she goes, did I just hear you guys congratulate yourselves for being out of the house for 4 hours? And we're like, yeah, this isn't our normal. And she was like, me too. And she kind of introduced herself to us, and she was just super sweet. And then she walked away, and I was like, Brittany, I'm gonna be that lady's friend. And we had been talking about getting me like business cards that have like my social media and stuff on it, so when we meet people we can give them our information so they can, like, you know, get a hold of us if they want to. No pressure, you know? And she eventually came back to the table, and my other friends had showed up, and she hung out with us for the rest of the night. She was so funny, and the 3 of us like hit it off. It was amazing. And so we made a friend. Nikki is now our new best friend. And she had walked there. She lived like 9 blocks away or something. And when we went to leave, we took pictures. I will show you pictures here. But we drove her home, like, because I drove to the event, and we drove her home, and we just laughed the whole way home. And it was what I needed after this like very mentally challenging week that I had. And so I'm really glad that I went, and I'm glad I didn't cancel like I really wanted to. So it was a really good time. We danced and just had so much fun. The DJ was cool as heck. He was playing like late 90s, early 2000s stuff with a little bit of new stuff mixed in. The best mix of stuff. And he was on rollerblades the whole time. It was crazy but cool. So yeah, so I got to meet a lot of people from like Instagram and Twitter that I had been interacting with over like the last 3 years, but I'd never got to meet in person. And it was really great. I'm really glad I went. It was what I needed. My legs are really sore today, but it was really good. And so today is Sunday. I'm gonna head up and see my grandma, and, you know, probably see my nephews for a little bit, because they're kind of, my mom and I were talking about this morning, they're kind of our, even though they're chaotic, they're kind of our center and our calmness, and, you know, they're kind of our everything, you know? Oh, a little update on my grandma. Last night my aunt sent me a picture, and she was sitting up in a chair, her eyes were wide open, and today the plan is to get her off the big ventilator machine and get a battery pack one and a walker so that they can get her up and start getting her walking again. So that's very positive. Things are going really good, and I'm excited to see her and kind of, you know, I did get to communicate with her a little bit on Friday, but I think today she'll be more aware of what's going on and more able to communicate with us a little bit better. So that's where I'm headed. I'm gonna put on some actual clothes because I have my pajamas on underneath my sweatshirt, and yeah, I'm gonna head that way, and then I'll record a little bit more and hopefully get this up for you guys tomorrow. So, you know, I want to thank you guys for always being so supportive of me, and even when I'm going through hard stuff, it's nice to be able to talk to you guys and kind of let you guys know that I hear you and I see you, because I did talk a little bit about this on Twitter, the stuff with my grandma, and it's just really good to have so many people like sending prayers and good thoughts for her, and it worked because she's doing so much better than we thought she was. So I'm gonna dry up a little bit and yeah, I'm gonna go see her, and I will update you guys after I see her. And you know, I haven't been vlogging because I'm trying to get my life together, and it's, you know, I'm trying to get out more and meet people. And I think last night and like a couple weeks ago, Brittany and I went to a paint and sip, and that was really cool. We made friends while we were there. Like, I get so, now I'm going off on a tangent, but sometimes I get really scared to go out in public because I've had such bad experiences, and I've had, you know, people say rude things to me, and that doesn't always happen. And I feel like if you put out, I'm gonna put some lip gloss on, if you put out a positive persona and positive energy, that you can get that back. And I think Brittany and I give each other confidence to do that, because if we're somewhere together, then at least I have someone that I feel comfortable with, and she feels the same way. And so it's nice that once we get past our social anxiety and that fear, that we can go out and do cool stuff like this. And when we're out, we have so much fun. And so I think that's good. It's pushing us to get out more. And I haven't brought my camera because I want to be there and experience it. And I also don't like I don't like vlogging in public. It makes me uncomfortable, and I don't want people to think that I'm like doing something weird. You know what I mean? So that's kind of why I don't vlog as much, and I don't have a good setup in my new Jeep to be able to car vlog like I used to. But my friend Sean did offer to help me figure that out, and so I do want to get back into candid candies and more car vlogs. So anyway, that was like a 5-minute tangent, but I'm gonna get dressed and go see my grandma, and I will update you guys and end this video there. Okay guys, I'm back from seeing my grandma, and I need to kind of get myself ready for work for the week, so I thought I'd update you before I got a little too busy. All of her scans, her EEGs, her brain scans, they've all come back good. They're saying that maybe she didn't have a seizure, it was just a reaction of very high blood pressure and her blood sugar being too high, and her body just kind of like trying to shut down. So that's good. I went back and saw her 2 times. They only let 3 people back at a time, and it's the ICU, so it's no one under 18 can go in. My nephews really want to come see her, but they can't go in, and they made her a card, and it was very, very cute and very sweet, and so I showed that to her. And but yeah, we went back and saw her. The first time I went back, it was my mom, my sister, and I, and we just, you know, talked to her and held her hand, and they moved her in the bed a little bit while we were there. She needed to sit up a little bit better, and so she's doing a lot better with that. And she's trying to communicate with like hand gestures and things, and so she's, you know, she's doing well. I accidentally made her laugh though, and she has she has the breathing tube down her throat, so that wasn't good because it kind of like hurt her a little bit, but that's who I am. Like when we were there Friday, I kept cracking jokes. We're in the waiting room. There's like 15 to 20 of us in the waiting room, just kind of, you know, every once in a while we go back and check on her and stuff. And I kept making people laugh. And then Friday night I came home and I felt kind of guilty about it. I was like, this is a serious situation. Maybe I shouldn't have done that. And then Saturday morning I called my mom, or she called me, one or the other. And I was like, Mom, was that okay? Like, I feel like maybe I shouldn't have done it. She's like, no, that's who you are in the family. You're the comic relief all the time. You make us all feel, you know, better. Like, not everything doesn't have to be so heavy all the time. So that made me feel a little bit better. So then later on, one of my aunts came, and my dad, because I mean, my dad and my mom were married for like 30 years. So like, he's been in the family, and we're the type of family that even if you get a divorce, you're still family, you know. And in fact, the aunt that was there is divorcing one of my grandma's brothers. So yeah, so we went back there, the three of us, and my dad talked to her and my Aunt Cammie talked to her, and it was just really nice to see her get to see people. But while we were back there, her blood pressure was super high. It was like 176/65, and so they wanted to give her some medicine in her IV, and I was like, maybe we should just let her sleep. I was like, are you tired? And she's like, yeah. I go, okay, we'll leave for a little while. And when I got back out to the waiting room, I let my aunts know and my cousins that, you know, she's very tired. And so nobody went back for a little while, and we were sitting there, and one of my cousins has I think he's 5 maybe, and then like an 18-month-old, or maybe he might be 2. And usually the 5-year-old doesn't like me. Like he's just a very quiet kid, but he started talking to me, and he was like showing me a game on his dad's phone, and it was like a shooting game, and so we started talking about video games. So now we're friends. Like, this is how I connect with young people, I guess. But yeah, so that's the update on my grandma. I'm gonna go ahead and edit this video and get it out for you guys, so that you know what's been going on and why maybe I haven't been on social media as much. But you know, yeah, things are going well. I probably won't be back up until, probably won't go back up until like Tuesday or Wednesday after work. I've put 800 miles on my car in the last 4 days, so I'm tired. My legs hurt from like just sitting so much. So I'm gonna get myself together for the week, and yeah. So thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. I will see you soon with regular videos. I love you guys.